in a late night moment of madness on Facebook, I saw this Westfield for sale that was incomplete. It's mostly been put together. It was owned by a college, and then someone's bought it. I think it might have changed hands a few times. But the guy who bought it off, he's just lost motivation with it. But what he's built is very nice. And we've got a Mark II Mazda MX5 engine, a 1.8. This one's got no variable valve timing. It's from about 2002, but it's got a different rocker cover on because it should have VVT, but it's been taken off. Anyway, minor details aside, so we've got this car. It's got a lot of wiring on it already, but it has no engine wiring harness. So we've got no wiring to the coils, nothing to the injectors, there's no throttle sensor, there's no ECU, there's no wiring. And we need to make this run. This is a common situation that people end up in. They fit an engine, they've got a body shell, we just need the engine to run. So what I've done is I've bought a harness and an ECU off the right MX5. Then I've gone, and you'll end up with this big pile of wire on the floor. You know, you've got your spaghetti junction. What you really need to do is go through all of the connectors and label everything so you know what it is. Mass airflow sensor, power steering pressure switch, crank sensor, aircon clutch, front lander, knock sensor, intake air control valve, throttle position sensor, cam sensor, the injection harness, the knock sensor, I think I've already said that, 2 coil packs, coolant sensor, EGR, variable intake control solenoid. So we know what all of those connectors are. Then we end up with the ones for the ECU. So we've got 2 that plug into the ECU there, and 1 connector that goes to the car's harness, and then another connector for the car's harness. And then at this stage what I've done is I've then worked out what all of these wires do. Gone through them all. Some of them go to the ECU. You can tell how it's spliced into the harness. So the harness goes to the ECU, and that goes to the sensors itself. So by unwrapping the tape, you can divide it. One's from the ECU, one's from the sensors. Now we've got some powers here. So we'll go through them. We've got black and white is 12 volt for the coils and the lambda sensor heater. Then we've got a white and red, which is 12 volt feed to sensors and valves. The aircon clutch wire, but we won't need that obviously. Oh, there's one I've missed there, a brown one. Matthew, water temperature sensor. So anyway, you get the impression. I've gone through, separated them out into what runs the harness and what goes to the ECU. Some of these we won't need, like the immobilizer wire, because I've just done a video on how to not run an immobilizer. RPM signal to the diagnostic connector, we don't need that. TPS signal to the diagnostic connector. You know, we don't need most of these, but if we keep them labelled, we can cut them off, we can coil them up, and then we can just keep what we need at the end of the day. And then we've got the connector number 1 to the ECU, which this has a permanent 12 volt feed, an ignition on, a load of wires that we don't need because they're for other things like the cluster and brake pedal switches and things like that. We will need a fan relay, and we will need a front lambda sensor, and the front lambda sensor wire goes here for some strange reason. I don't know why it goes through this harness, but it does. Anyway, so as long as we can fit this to the car, get this all in place, and then put power to what we need. Something else I've done to this is I've cut a hole in the side of the ECU there and fitted an OBD connector, and then I've soldered the wires into the pins. So it's got live, ground and the K line, which are attached to these pins in this connector. So we've got a diagnostic connector on the side of the ECU that we know that works, and we've also got an engine warning light there. So that makes that an ECU that we can plug a scan tool in, and once we've got most of this in, we can see what works and what doesn't work. So we'll leave this here, and now I'm going to try and get all of this harness onto this part of the vehicle. Now, One of my subscribers says that what I need to do is put this in the video all the time. So if you like this sort of chaos, garage tinkering, you know what you need to do. We're about 2 hours later now, and the harness is all fitted. We need a few P-clips here, but it's all there. This has got some of the rocker cover cut away, so I've had to make a little bracket just for the cam sensor to go on there. We are missing a mass airflow sensor, which should arrive soon, and I need a lambda sensor for the exhaust. That's missing as well. But we're wired in. We've got some permanent lives and some switch lives. Got the fan relay kicked up for the coolant fan. The ECU goes through this cable, in there, through that rubber grommet, and it's currently just freestyling down here. We've got the scan tool plugged in, which we can see some live data values on here. Hang on. Engine coolant temperature sensor. That appears to be working. Do we have a spark? Oh, we've got a spark. So that's a good sign. And I've listened to a fuel injector and I can hear that popping away. So we've definitely got a bit of power there. This looks like it might go. So it looks like our IMO emulator is working well. We just need a mass airflow sensor and a bit of pipe. We need a bit of fuel in the tank, and I'll put the fuse in for the relay, and then we'll see if it goes tomorrow. Okay, a few days later, it's time to crank it. My mass airflow sensor's come in the post, a second-hand one, and we made a little bracket here for the cam sensor, because it needs a cam sensor. It needs to be roughly here. I've looked at some pictures on eBay. I haven't wired in yet the lambda sensor. That needs to be fitted in the exhaust. But I've turned the ignition on, the pump runs. Let's give it a blast. Are you ready? You ready? Hold your breath. 3, 2, 1. Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. I think that cam sensor bracket needs to be a bit more proper. Yeah, something's not quite right, but we're nearly there, aren't we? It nearly runs. It looks like we've got a leak. Got some sort of fuel leak going on down here, and that's a bit of a fire hazard. But so far so good, eh? Just got to do a bit more tinker time. Just thought I'd wrap up this Westy video with the MX5 engine in. The harness is all in now, and you can sort of turn the key and it just, yeah. Right, we'll have a little drive. Are you ready? You ready? So it is this car's never been driven before, has it? It's all brand new. Best not crash it on the driveway. That would be a bit embarrassing, that would. Right, last pull. Yeah, so it does drive, but fair bit of work to finish. But I'm not sure. I'm not so sure I'm the guy to finish it now.